fifth graders. Welcome back. Today we're going to do a lesson talking about asking questions while you read. And it's simple. It seems simple, and it can be with practice. But like I talked about yesterday, as fifth graders, we are really trying to dig deeper into the text. And that requires us to be critical thinkers and investigators while we read. So it's more than just reading the words on the page exactly as they're written. That only helps us to discover a small part of the story. But when we think way beyond the text, when we make connections like we talked about yesterday, and when we ask really good questions, we can get to know characters better and we can make better predictions, and we can really get more out of a story. So we're going to talk about that today, the types of questions that you need to be asking while you read. So take a look at this poster that I have up here. It says thick and thin questions. So asking questions while you read is something that you have learned before. But when you first started out reading, you were asking what we call thin questions. You were just asking basic things like, when was this story written? Or when is the story taking place, like the setting? Where is it taking place? What? Who are the main characters? How many people are there? Those are important things, of course. You need to know the setting and you need to know who the characters are, but those are things that you probably do now without even much thought. So now we're going to take things a step farther. We're going to move on from thin questions that are found right there in the text. They're found right there on the page. They don't require you to think very much. We're going to move from those thin questions over to what we call thick questions. So take a look at some of these examples of thick questions. So you might say things like, what if? What if the character goes to that party? I wonder what will happen. Or how would you feel if? So that's an example of making a connection, but you're also asking a question. How would I feel if that happened? I was doing a little bit of that when I was reading about women's suffrage yesterday, thinking, how would I feel if I were arrested just for trying to vote? I wonder, how did this happen? Or I wonder why? Or why did the character do that? Why did the character react that way? That's surprising to me. What would happen if the character had done this? So maybe even the plot didn't go that way, but thinking, what would have happened if things played out differently? That's a really good way to get to know characters and think about the types of people that they are. What could happen next, making predictions, or why did the character do or say that? So notice the difference between these thick and thin questions. Why did the character do or say something? That's not something I can go back to my book, open up to page 27 and say, oh, right here it tells me. No, I'm going to have to probably come up with that on my own. I've got to think way beyond the text. I'm going to use some clues of what I already have learned about that character. I'm not just going to pull a guess out of thin air. But it really pushes you to think in depth about characters and to think more about the plot and really understand the book better and get so much more out of it. You're going to find that the more you dig deeper into your reading, the more exciting books will become, because there's often a whole nother storyline that the author isn't just writing right out on the paper. It's just there waiting for you to discover. Okay. Now, keep in mind, you can do all of these things, making connections, and asking questions. All of these can be done in any type of book you're reading. Sometimes I hear students say, but I'm reading a graphic novel, so I can't do that. No, graphic novels are great, and graphic novels are a type of literature. You can do these types of things in any type of book, genre, you name it. So if you're reading a magazine, this happens to be one of those Scholastic magazines, you can definitely ask questions. Sometimes I think asking questions for nonfiction things, informational things, is almost a little bit easier because it naturally fills you with wonder as you're reading about a true topic. You can ask questions about a fiction book, even just a picture book. Here's an example of one of those what were, the what was, who was, all those books. This one is What Were the Salem Witch Trials? Again, as I read this book, I could be asking tons of questions as I read. Michigan Chillers, fiction, doesn't matter. So today I am going to actually read a little bit of a book And I'm going to read a book that is found on Epic. I cannot say enough great things about this book, and I'm hoping by reading the first few pages, it might tease you just enough to want to read this book yourself. The book is called El Defo, and it's written by Cece Bell. It was a Newbery Honor book, so anytime a book has been recognized with a Newbery medal, it's definitely worth your time to check out. El Defo is a graphic novel, which is pretty cool. So right away, as I'm looking at the cover and as I'm thinking about the title, I'm thinking that's interesting. El Defo. I don't know what that means. That's not a word or a phrase I'm familiar with. When I see L-E-L out in front of it, I wonder, does this character maybe speak a different language? Is it something to do with that? So I'm already asking some questions. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on the first page. Okay, so chapter 1. It says, I was a regular little kid. I played with my mom's stuff. I watched TV with my big brother, Ashley, and my big sister, Sarah. I rode on the back of my father's bicycle. Whee! I found caterpillars with my friend Emma, and I sang, we all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine. All right. Ooh. Bear with me here as but then everything changed. A yellow summer. I love how the author kind of made the letters summer. Cece? Notice what the picture is telling us here. She's getting sick. George, do something. Hurry. My parents rushed me to the hospital. Oh, and notice the words in the background. Please hurry. Don't miss the turn. She's getting worse. Please. Dear God. So all these internal thoughts that her parents are probably having, or her mom. All right, so they're arriving at the hospital. Please help us. She's so sick. I am pulled away from my parents and taken to a room. Somebody sticks a needle in my back. Okay, so I'm already filled with questions. Like, what is happening to Cece? What could be wrong? Obviously, it's come on quickly. So I can guess that this probably has never happened to her before based on the way her parents are reacting. But it seems serious. So I'm wondering more about what could this be? What is affecting her? Now, this is the doctor talking. The fluid from her spine tells us she has meningitis. Her brain might swell. But she's only 4. Now, some of you might be able to make a text-to-self connection here. Maybe you know somebody who's had meningitis. I do not. I don't know much about meningitis. And at this point in the book, when the doctor is talking about the main character having meningitis, that's probably something that's going to be important for me to know. So do not be afraid when you're reading a book. If you come across something and you don't know what it is, I encourage you to read a little bit more, because sometimes the author will get to it and they'll tell you a little bit more, but they don't always do that. So I might have to do some investigating really quick as a reader to try and figure out what meningitis is, because if I don't understand that myself, I'm going to have some gaps in my understanding as I read in this book. I'm only on page like 3 or 4. So if I don't understand a big part of the book already, I've got a little bit of work to do to figure that out. And it's okay. Good readers try to get answers to those questions. So I'm going to hold on to that question for right now. What is meningitis? If the author doesn't answer that question right in the text, I'm going to have to do some work. Okay, next page. I wake up. I'm in a different room. A doctor comes. We need to measure your head. And a nurse comes. This won't hurt a bit. Look at her face. Makes me think it might hurt. And oh, but my head hurts really bad. The arm prickings and head measurings are endless. It looks like I'll be here for a while. But after many days of treatment, I'm well enough to share a room with another sick kid. So I could wonder, I wonder what's going on with this girl. I wonder what will happen if Cece, the main character, I wonder what will happen if she's sent home. Or I wonder what will happen if she has to stay in the hospital a long time. I could kind of play through those. If you've ever been sick and if you've missed a lot of school or if you haven't been able to play with your friends, you might make a connection there along with that question to try to help answer that question. Something is different though, but what? I can't figure it out. Cece, want some ice cream? Huh, I guess she doesn't want any. For one thing, how come I never get any ice cream? The other kid gets it all the time. So I'm going to pause there for a second because something doesn't add up. The nurse is asking her if she wants ice cream. She doesn't answer, but she's feeling frustrated that the other girl is getting ice cream. So I wonder why that is. I wonder why Cece's not answering. Try again here. There we go. Okay. Why can't Ashley? Oh, did I maybe turn the page too many times? Nope. Okay. Why can't Ashley and Sarah come up to my room and talk to me? They might have germs, and so they can't come up. It's really faded there. It's hard to read. I'm wondering if that's an accident or if the author meant to do that. That might even be a clue. In fact, I'm going to go back a second. I'm going to check something else. So this writing is really light gray. But I noticed that over here, like when her mom says, George, do something, hurry, please help us, she's so sick. That's not in that light gray. But it's like every time someone is talking to her after being sick, it's in this light gray. I wonder if that's a clue of something. I might make a prediction as a reader of what's going on. And how come the TV doesn't make any sense? She's wondering. More clues. Everything is so quiet. I think I'm catching on to something. It seems like Cece can't hear, right? Or she's either lost her hearing altogether or she has some hearing loss. So that's pretty clear. Let's keep going. I'm going to finish reading this chapter and then I will stop. It says, it's not all bad though. I get lots of great gifts. And I start to feel better. I put on one of the gifts. It's time to get up, but I can't stand up. Okay, so I wonder if her, this diagnosis of meningitis, it looks like it's affected more than just her hearing. Now she can't walk. I can't even walk. I can crawl though, and after a few days of practice, I regain my balance. I'm feeling so much better. Okay, so things are improving. So with a little bit of practice, she's able to walk. And I wonder, is it going to be the same with her ears? Is it going to be that maybe she needs to go through some therapy or something to get her hearing back? I don't know. That hasn't been answered for me on the page, but I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper and make some predictions and ask some questions. I think I might even be all better. Finally, I get to leave the hospital and go home. Miracle of miracles, my siblings are being nice to me. Ashley has made and hidden hundreds of paper boats all around the house just for me and has filled each one with a special surprise. That's sweet. And Sarah sits close to my bed at night until I fall asleep. I wake up every morning happy and relieved to be home. I stay close to Mama no matter where she is. So she's really close to her. I wonder why that is. I wonder, she says she's feeling all better, but I wonder, is that the case? She might feel better, but maybe she's not 100%. I think about like my own daughter. I always know when she's not feeling great because she's kind of extra clingy. So I'm curious if Cece really is all better or if there's something else going on. Then she says, but suddenly I lose her, as in her mom. Where is she? And notice it looks like her mom is calling for her. I call out, but she doesn't answer me. Her mom is still yelling for her, but Cece can't hear her. Notice this is blank, right? So Cece doesn't hear. When I finally find her, I know that everything is different. I think she knows it too. I can't hear. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter. This starts chapter 2 up here. So I'm going to stop there. Notice all of the times, though, that I stopped. It's okay to pause in your reading, to ask questions, and to wonder aloud about things. Remember, though, go beyond who is the main character. Cece, right? That's right there in the text. Go beyond those thin questions and really focus on asking those thick questions. I did a lot of I wonders and what if kind of questions as I read that first chapter. So challenge yourself as you read to ask questions. And today, as you're reading independently, I want you to make a list of 3 questions that you have stopped to ask. Make sure that they are thick questions. And I want you to write those down, and you're going to share with me the questions that you've asked in your reading today. So happy reading. Good luck asking questions and digging deeper into the stories that you are reading. Can't wait to hear all about it. Bye, guys.